humanity pretended to go extinct and rebuilt civilization, and it was broadcast live. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226. You can always trust this man. Magical discovery on the beach. Look at the dilapidated scene in the camp. Jiang Kui was not dejected, rather happy. Because anyway, at the moment, I'm an independent thinker. Will think, can breathe, still alive. Compared to these broken bricks and tiles in front of me, can breathe fresh air again. Is the most important. Keep the green hills, don't be afraid of running out of firewood. Only critical supplies, no losses were incurred. Victory in this confrontation. It's its own all around. Turned around. Jiang Kui turned his head. Look again. The wooden house behind. Compared to before. Except for the roof and cornices, a lot of dead branches hung up. The whole building. There is hardly any damage. Still solid. Columns and piers on the bright side. Even more sturdy. Solid wood. Do it again. The toughness and hardness of this wood. It deserves to be one of the best. If it is the same design. Choose fir. Absolutely can't achieve this effect. Now. In the live room. Through the lens when the audience saw this scene. The barrage is surging again. Up your posture. This is really amazing. You can always trust this man. Movers dare not shoot like this. Really awesome. Brothers, I just ask, who else? In the beginning, I thought that Lord Kui would be GG, but I found out that I thought too much. As expected of man at the top of the food chain. Yides. See here. Even some foreign audiences had to sigh. The magic of China tenon and mortise craftsmanship, facing a super typhoon. Can stand still. Absolutely. Eagle Source audience, I can't believe it. This wooden house actually resisted the typhoon. It's outrageous. If this time we replace our players, the survival rate is almost zero. Darnging audience, I think the seismic performance of this kind of house should not be wrong, and it should be vigorously promoted in Darnging. Yes. That way you don't have to worry about it all day. Collier's audience, ton and mortise belong to our great cold nation. No explanation. That's right. This process was indeed first invented by Gao Liren. Hurry up to apply for the World Heritage. Standing there for a while, Jiang Kui regained his mood. Start cleaning the camp. Finally. Spent a whole day. Only restored the camp to its previous appearance. The chicken coop was rebuilt. Cows and sheds. A fence was built. Two kilns were repaired. Tidy up the vegetable garden. At the same time. For the first time, the glass windows were pressed for the wooden house. Rebuilt a wooden bed. Carefully cleaned up the stagnant water. Busy for 10 hours. Until the sun goes down. The whole rebuild works just come to an end. Before sleep, Jiang Kui took Dabe to the riverside. Check the water level. Due to the construction of embankments and adjustable weirs, the water level has risen. But still within the controllable range. The embankment did not burst. Good news. Otherwise. Definitely a big hassle. Silent all night. The next day. Early morning. Still good weather as always. Wake up. Jiang Kui went down the straight ladder. Climb up to the roof. Chapter 227. Copper box treasure box. Oh, you huang is you. Rare pigeon blood red. Lying trough. What is this? Pandora's box. Civilization garbage. Look carefully, it says made in China. Haha. Abuse. The copper box is the size of a palm. Due to prolonged seawater erosion. It has long since become unrecognizable. But in terms of shape and structure. This box is not some civilized garbage. There must be something weird in there. Want to come. Most are regional currents caused by storms to make it reappear again. Finally. By accident. He was picked up by himself. Thought here. Combined with the legendary history left by this sea area. In the dark, Jiang Kui always felt this copper box. There must be some hidden secrets. Is it a relic from an ancient gold carrying ship, or a mysterious institution in the primitive tribe, or the treasure chest on the treasure of the sunken ship? How exactly? Not yet known, but one thing is for sure. This box is probably not an ordinary thing. Otherwise. The manufacturer will not bother to design such an exquisite cryptographic mechanism on it. South Pacific. Sea point since ancient times pirates prevailed point around the Middle Ages due to the opening of Singapore Airlines No. 840 point these sea raiders it's a unique moment of brilliance. Robbery of merchant ships loot treasure point deep in the vast ocean point there are countless legends left behind. At the same time point it also casts a mysterious veil on this sea area, beginning with Columbus' first expedition in 1492 point the European and Zal colonists began to use the most brutal methods in a steady stream point plunder. The wealth of the colony point obtain valuable resources and special products from the New World point become the #1 rich country. At that time point what is the most afraid of the richest country's gold ship? That must be pirates and hurricanes. Because of the existence of these two mortal enemies point the depths of the ocean point left behind countless treasures of gold and silver and great wealth. One of the most famous also the most well-known point the wreck treasure of the Lady Atoka. The wrecked treasure of the Lady Atoka point ranked 3rd among the world's top 10 treasures. This sunken ship is known as the biggest treasure under the sea point there are nearly 40 tons of treasure. In point just gold point there are nearly 8 tons various jewelry antiques almost 500 kilograms the value of all treasures about $400 million. Quantity is huge point staggering. August 1622 point the convoy of the Lady Atoka was returning to Spain from South America, laden with treasure point for safety reasons the crew carried the most valuable treasure point all on a frigate of the Lady Atoka point sadly point the cannons of the frigate are very powerful point, but in the face of a hurricane, its useless sudden hurricane point swept the fleet point so far Madam Atoka, originally full of firepower due to the heavy load point sailing speed is too slow point became the first target of the attack point smart is mistaken by smart point finally point sunk in the depths of the ocean point except for the Lady Atoka point to this day. Chapter 228. Mysterious and unpredictable ancient text. Shock top double material expert. Since ancient times ruby has a very respected status especially in the West point put it this way point westerners love for rubies no less than the fascination of oriental people for gold. Long ago point ancient West point there is such a legend point. When God created all things 12 gems were left point in point the most precious and rarest point it's a ruby. To this day point this is also ruby point the reason why it is invaluable and favored by westerners. Now point foreigners in the live broadcast room point not a few. When seeing this egg-sized pigeon blood ruby point they couldn't hold it on the spot. One after another launched a barrage. Oh God, this ruby is so beautiful. To see this treasure with my own eyes is really lucky for 3 lifetimes. I have to say, this is my favorite color. This Chinese has made a fortune. Envy. Is this luck so good? I'll make karma. Others are here to survive, but he is here to make a fortune. Chinese people, please don't use your life to play games. God, what kind of fairy luck is he? So enviable. Boiling barrage point float one after another it took a long time to stop. Immediately after except for the value of the gem itself point after careful observation. Jiang Kui also noticed point the back of the gem point also wrapped in a layer of extremely pure gilt. It is a typical golden laid jade craftsmanship point similar process point historical point worldwide point are popular just from this detail point it is impossible to accurately determine the provenance of the gemstone point. But point besides there is one more detail point worth to talk about point that's the gold surface point not empty point around it point there are many beautiful ancient cloud patterns engraved on the chisel point there. Middle point it also depicts rows of strange characters the size of sesame seeds. Because gold is an inert metal point oxidation does not occur point so point it will last. Even after being submerged in water for a long time point now point facing the sun point a stroke of the text point all clearly visible. Every point you can see clearly. Judging by the structure of the text point such text point like some kind of pictogram. But it doesn't seem to be. But point it is worth mentioning that point these words the damaged text. On the combination lock on the copper box treasure chest point almost the same point it has the same effect. Similar got 2 point much. Like modern Latin point just some details there are only differences. At the same time, China's studio, All experts and staff also put their eyes on it onto these bizarre words, but industry specializing in surgery looked for a long time several experts didn't see anything coming no way to demystify these words. The program team arranged a video connection for the first time. Academician Chen Jinggang, an expert in ancient writing research at the China Academy of Culture please come to the live room. Chen Jinggang is the leading ancient script expert and archaeologist in China, the oldest. Chapter 229. The truth is revealed. Lost civilization. The legendary ancient city. This is the lost Quechua script. Quechua is a very old South American native language, originated and applied in the Andes Mountains of South America. The ancient Quechua language was a daily written script used in the heyday of the Inca Empire as the world knows it. The Inca Empire was the civilization of the ancient Indians of South America. The word Inca, the title of its supreme ruler, means son of the Sunday civilization. Started in the 14th century, it peaked in the mid-15th century. The Inca Empire at its peak and heyday had borders centered on present-day Bolivia and Bolivia, north to Colombia and Ecuador, south to Central Intelligence and north of Argentine. Speaking of which Chen Jinggang cleared his throat trembling. He picked up the teacup took a sip of water then continued. Ahem. The ancestor of the Incas, the original 840 originally lived in the plateau area of Belu 35 later. They migrated to Cusco and established the Inca Empire. These Indians, who originally settled only in Cusco, did not begin major territorial expansion until the end of the 14th century. Between 1438 and 1533, the Inca Empire used methods ranging from conquest by force to peaceful assimilation, and the Inca Empire's territory covered almost the entire West and South American week. The power of the empire peaked during the reign of Monarch Vena Capac. However, later, the descendants of Tupac Inca Yupanqui caused many civil wars due to their competition for the throne, which led to internal and external troubles in the Inca Empire, and gave later maritime colonists an opportunity. In the early 16th century, the empire eventually came to an end due to the decline of civil strife. With the history of the Inca Empire, the Incas created a unique civilization in architecture, law, art, crafts, and religion. The Inca Empire, the original rulers were Sapa Inca Manco Capac and his wife Mama Aquelo. It is said that they used the power of gods to create such a glorious empire. However, looking at it now, this legend is likely to be fabricated by the Incas, and it is not credible. Chen Jinggang said intermittently. The voice was low and hoarse. Very excited tone. As one of the few experts in the world to study Inca culture since the 70s and 80s of the last century. Chen Jinggang was very interested in this ancient Inca knotted text. Got a lot of interest and was fascinated by it, but in recent decades due to the associated archaeological artifacts very few have been unearthed. Samples of ancient texts circulating in the world. Very limited. Even the philologists and archaeologists of various countries studied hard for decades. This research didn't make much progress either. Until now. No one can fully decipher this ancient knotted script, including Chen Liu. Quechua is the only known written language of the Inca Empire. It was originally a type of knotted text. Knot characters consist of a string with a thin thread tied above it. These thin lines tied with different knots colors also vary. The Incas recorded different information in these ways. Evidence from the Crusades. The Incas were already very proficient in this script. And there are corresponding improvements. Later. At the height of civilization. Knot characters gradually evolved into hieroglyphs. Officially became the written language of the Inca Empire. But due to the existence of historical faults. In addition, there are very few cultural relics unearthed. Until today. No one has been able to fully decipher the Quechua script. All the time. Chen Jinggang even thinks pessimistically. The lost Inca civilization. It is likely that the day will never come back to light, and his own research. Lifetime. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230. The Mystery of the Golden City. The real meaning of the ancient characters. According to the existing literature, the origin of the Golden City and its hiding place. There are at least 4 or 5 versions circulating. In the most believable version is .1533. Spanish sprout invaders. To the Inca Empire. A brutal war of aggression was launched. Leader of this war, he was a famous colonial leader in the early Spanish buds, Francisco Pizarro. Then Pizarro led 180 valiant soldiers with the most advanced cannons in Europe at that time. Matchlock gun. Sharp sword. Have you left Bana? Advance to Biru. Before leaving. They listened to captured Indians from here. Keep going south. There is a golden city. It's full of gold and silver jewelry. This sentence. Led Pizarro have a strong interest. It also added to his determination to take risks. At the same time. The Inca Empire at this time. Facing imperial infighting. Greedy and ambitious Atahualpa. In order to monopolize the country. Provoked a battle of brothers. Won the throne. Become the 13th king of the 19th Inca. And in the capital Cusco. During the 3-day battle. Successfully captured his brother. For Pizarro and his party. This infighting. An absolute godsend. Because of this moment. Opponent's strength. Weakened. By killing each other. He can take advantage of others. Set a trap to trap the Inca king. Later the battle went on for 2 days under Pizarro's adventurous attack. An army of over 40,000 men was defeated by 180 Spaniards. The Spaniards suffered almost no casualties. Just don't be too outrageous. And killed Indians. There are as many as 5,000 people. King Atahualpa. Finally got caught. After the battle is over, Pizarro sent men to the Inca camp to scavenge fortune. Brought back gold worth 80,000 pesos. Since then. Greedy Pizarro. Focus on the capital of the Inca kingdom, city of Cusco. This is the most magnificent of all the city scarves of the Indians. The most spectacular city. Has a majestic house. Palace. Temple. They are all decorated with invaluable gold and silver glittering everywhere. Brilliant. Those fine brocades in the interior. Blanket. Gold. Gem. Pearl. Agate. Colorful. Even more magnificent. So far. Spanish people. Chapter 231. Chinese. Please bring this ruby back. Famous explorers speak up. This tedious and boring ancient text. For the vast majority of people. Might not be of any interest. But for an expert obsessed with studying such texts, this is a wealth that is incomparable to any gold and silver treasures. In Chen Lao's viewpoint on life. It is also fortunate to see such a precious sample. It's definitely an unforgettable opportunity. If you can get a glimpse. In this way, the golden city of the Incas can be seen again. It's not empty talk. If so. This dusty history that has plagued mankind for hundreds of years, the mystery will also be revealed. This moment. Not just Chen Jinggang. All experts and history buffs interested in the history of the Inca Empire. Very excited too. The response is extremely strong. All historians, archaeologists, even explorers, all about Jiang Kui's discovery. Got a lot of interest online. Pakiwix, a well-known surfer and Italian explorer, it was the first time to speak out. It has been 25 years since that incident. To this day, everything is still fresh in my memory. I didn't expect to hear news about that ancient city again in my lifetime. Chinese people, please bring this ruby back. Because it may be the key to unlocking the secret of the Inca. In the international archaeological community. There are many archaeologists and explorers have explored the traces of the Inca Golden City. Pakiwix is one of them! 2028. In search of the legendary lost treasure. Pakiwix had led an international expedition of 30 people. Deep into the virgin jungle of Belu. In the process of exploration. They were on the shore of Lake Titicaca deep in the jungle. The fabled Golden City was discovered underwater in a lake with a geological radar. The investigation showed that there seemed to be caves and passages underwater. If the Spanish description is true. The treasure in the Golden City. Mostly hiding there. Then. The expedition team immediately decided to conduct a more in-depth investigation of this place with the accompanying cave experts. But. Later on, Indian who had been a guide for the expedition reported to Belu authorities some bad behaviors of the expedition were disclosed. It has attracted great attention from Relevant part is point then points due to concerns that exploration may be dangerous point. So point at the beginning point each expedition member they all carried weapons with them point period point to save time point they even broke into a nature reserve that was forbidden to enter and cut trees to make way in the jungle point fire camp point discard food scraps casually point there is also no contact with local isolated primitive tribes without permission point in exchange for clothes and daily necessities. Native serve as guides for them point seriously destroy the traditional way of life of the local indigenous people point for these various reasons plus pressure from all sides point at last point exploration activities had to be stopped point. But point this exploration point not for nothing. On the way back point they were lucky enough to be in a cave point a gold jewelry of the Inca queen was found point suspected. Left behind when fleeing. As soon as this news came out point immediately shocked the entire international archaeological community. It is because of this discovery point the expedition team firmly believes that the legendary city of Gold Point possibly hidden under the lake. Chapter 232. He pretended it again. At least the 6th level. It turns out that the clown is me. Thinking. Jiang Kui immediately spent millions of survival points get it in the bag. Next second point continuous stream of data point into the mind point all kinds of knowledge about the original text point it was deeply imprinted in my mind point. As if born with it point then point in consciousness a little red light flashed point pupils contract rapidly point it's been a long time point just back to normal. Immediately after still stunned for a while point about half a minute before and after consciousness recovered again point C. Jiang Kui cheered up immediately point turn your attention to those obscure words point at this time point go through those words again point it's not as obscure as it used to be point it's completely turned into one's own instinct with the help of the system. Jiang Kui understood immediately point the text behind the gem point exactly the ancient Inca. Thanks to the coming of the sun god, my empire lives forever 39 FOLLOWING its guidance is where the gods are, the last eternal road, the son of God will walk with me, glancing away. Jiang Kui murmured 847 word by word. Insert the text above point I read it softly. Heard here point the pot immediately exploded in the live broadcast room. The barrage exploded on the spot. It keeps coming up. Woodgrass. Nanny. Master Kui. You actually know these words. Good guy. What is this operation? He actually knows. Can you believe it? Fog KO. He was pretending to be there again. It turns out that the clown is me. Amazing. At least level 6. Haha, I'm going. The last sentence. Mr. Chen doesn't understand. He actually translated it. Eagle source audience. Got. This guy's really omnipotent. Yes. I really can't believe it. Oh my god. This guy is an absolute genius. Darn-geeing audience. All-round talent. Chinese people are really smart. The expert doesn't understand, but he actually understands. At the same time. Inside China studio, Chen Jinggang in the video connection point I also heard what Jiang Kui said. Look at this young man in the live broadcast point the old man, BJFH, was immediately shocked. The long lost Inca script point definitely the most complex ancient text ever written. It is many times more difficult than the Mayan script. Even if it has been studied for decades it can only be said that I know a thing or two. But this young man point but just looked at it twice point it's easy to decipher it. Even the most obscure last sentence point and no effort. Very smooth. Even after thorough research point it's hard to get to that level. This guy's really not easy. Chen Jinggang thought point he should be the person who understands the Inca language best in the world point. But never expected point there is a day outside flying fairy point own knowledge point in front of people point simply worthless the only pity is can't meet him now point otherwise. Be sure to ask, thanks to the coming of the sun god, my empire can live forever. Following its guidance is where the gods are, the last eternal road, the son of God will walk with me. Follow closely. Chapter 233. Success in raising seedlings. I thought Lord Kui was bronze, but I didn't expect it to be the king. The island where Jiang Kui is located point with the Amazon River point almost at the same latitude point, the two are apart point not far. The Amazon River is the largest river in the world point regardless of river flow point, drainage area point or the number of tributaries can kill all rivers in the world in seconds. Even a tributary with the smallest flow point can easily surpass the Yangtze River and the Yellow River, crush the Nile more than 30 times. Tear off the whole of South America. The mouth of the Amazon River, Lima, the capital of Peru, borders the Pacific Ocean point, straight line distance from the island point, but 100 kilometers. If analyzed from this angle point logically point it does make sense point, at least that possibility exists. The onset of a typhoon point plus a long rafting point, thanks to the help of nature point you can find the relics of the Golden City on the island point, doesn't seem to be anything weird. Of course point besides point here point there is another possibility point, that is, whether it is the Spanish who coveted the treasure point or later expeditions. Everyone lied point, real history point, word of mouth with people point, it's actually a far cry point, perhaps point then point when evading the pursuit of Spanish people point. In Carempa there is simply no treasure of the empire point buried deep in the Amazon basin point, nor was it plunged into Lake Titicaca, but hidden in the vast sea. A real city of gold point silent in the depths of the ocean point, not sure. As for those Inca captives treasure clues for the Spanish point, maybe it's just a trick to hide from the sky. The purpose is to make those brutal colonists believe it. Think about it for a while. Jiang Kui shook his head point with a long sigh point, thoughts that will fly away point, pull back to reality hundreds of years ago point, looking at the sea in the distance. Silent civilization, lost treasure, void city. This moment point, scenes from centuries ago point, it's like a bridge in a movie point, it kept flashing in his mind point. If you can really make this Inca golden city disappear in the long river of history point, rebirth point, what an exciting thing that must be. But point, this kind of thing point, just think about it. Consider your current situation point, too much to dwell on these point, it doesn't make much sense point, there is no priority whatsoever, because right now point no matter how much gold and silver treasures, nor will it grow on its own point, play a decisive role in the final decision point about these dusty histories. Be a legend point, as an after dinner talk point, it's not a problem point, if not necessary point, it's not worth the effort to search for those illusory gold and silver treasures, because compared to these things think more about how you can make your life more comfortable point, perhaps point will be more realistic point, but point, if there is a chance later these things can still come in handy point. But the premise of all this all are built on the basis that human society did not die out. If the whole world point really only left alone point more gold and silver jewelry point, it's all just an illusory bubble. Chapter 234. Transplanting seedlings. 20 years of single-hand speed. Details in the details. Immediately after finished breakfast, Jiang Kui is back in Tanaka again. Feel free to use the bamboo strips left in the camp point, weaved to small bamboo baskets, one left and one right point tied around the waist point, then point put the seedlings in order here neatly point, step into the paddy field point, come to a ridge point, ready to start planting. Planting point, it is planting seedlings in paddy fields. Also the rice seedlings are taken from the seedling fields. The process of transplanting to rice fields, due to breeding time point, rice is relatively dense point, not conducive to growth point, only after artificial transplantation or machine transplantation point, in order to allow rice to have more room for growth. But point planting is also a skill point, insert evenly point all in one line point between each seedling point, make sure to reserve a fixed growth space. 847. If there is a deviation point it can easily lead to the death of the seedlings. So point, be sure to pay more attention. Due to geographical differences and weather conditions point, globally point, the time when the rice transplanting starts in each place point, not all are the same point, differ greatly point, just the northern and southern hemispheres the time difference may span to seasons point, but point this time point, or just for ordinary rice point, if it is a special wild species point, for example point salt tolerant rice point, the difference will be bigger. There is not a lot of experience and specialized agricultural knowledge point, chances are you'll miss out point, that's why An important reason why Jiang Kui can't wait to choose the time to plant. Because the rice transplanting time is sooner or later, it has a great impact on the growth and yield of rice. Transplanting rice too early or too late will reduce rice yields, especially salt tolerant rice. When to plant rice. It must be determined according to the size of the seedlings and the local safe transplanting period. In principle, it is necessary to grasp the agricultural time. Plant seedlings early at the right time. That is, within the safe reproductive period. It's better sooner than later, because of early planting at the right time. Can prolong the vegetative growth period. Increase effective tillering. Compete for low tillers. Make rice plants accumulate more substances before ear differentiation. Beneficial stalks, dasu, increase production. But if the seedlings are planted too early. Nor is it a one and done move. Period. If the temperature is not stable. Encountered low temperature cold weather again. Accidents can also easily happen. Such as cold damage or freezing damage. At the same time, it is also prone to herbicide damage. Extend the slow seedling period of the seedlings. Even the seedlings die if the seedlings appear large. Slow seedlings, the salt tolerant rice growing and bathing period will be delayed. Tillers will be significantly reduced. Yields will also drop significantly. So neither too late nor too early. Be sure to seize the heat as far as possible. The transplanting time should be determined according to the age of the rice seedlings. The island is located in the subtropics. Typical subtropical climate according to the characteristics of salt tolerant rice. The transplanted seedlings should be about 5 to 15 days old. Chapter 235. Attention from all parties. The attention of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. I wish Lord Kui high yielding sow, woodgrass, cow batch. It can't be more detailed. Master of time management. Laugh to death. God TM time management master. I'm going. This is to showy. Would you like to be so showy? Really kneeling. Immediately after Zhang cakes and slow down. Continued. Ordinary rice is most susceptible to salt stress at the seedling, reproductive and 2 to 3 leaf stages. The level of soil salinity will seriously affect the growth of rice in 3 stages of osmotic stress, iron toxicity and oxidative stress, and reduce its yield. Previously, because our country has never found a wild salt tolerant rice plant. 39 For the study of rice salt tolerance, most of them use the quantitative trait loci and linkage markers of ordinary rice, then, through the key option of molecular breeding, trying to improve the salt tolerance of rice. However, this breeding method is not the optimal solution, and it has always had little effect. So, this research, until now, has not made a breakthrough. But if this time, Jiang Kui's salt tolerant rice can be successful, that is definitely a golden opportunity for us to overcome the breeding difficulties. Wild salt tolerant rice seedlings, due to its 19 specific molecular structure and gene sequence. Just follow the right cultivation process. You can get very high quality elite germplasm resources. And with these original elite germplasm resources, whether identifying salt tolerance quantitative trait loci or apply related genes to the breeding of new salt tolerant varieties, or are significant. If so, this is a difficult problem in salt tolerant channel breeding that has plagued countless scientists. No more problems. Years ago, research group on conservation and genetic improvement of tropical rice seeds, Zishuangpan, a tropical botanical garden, Chinese Academy of Sciences. The genes related to salt tolerance in Heidao 86 were successfully located. Want to do this to analyze the mechanism of rice salt tolerance. Breed new high quality salt tolerant rice varieties. But it's a pity. Because there is no high quality elite germplasm resources, research quickly reached a bottleneck. To this day, have not overcome the difficulties for a long time. It can be seen from this excellent elite germplasm in the wild. Breeding of new varieties of salt tolerant rice. How important it is. At the moment. Within the globe. At least 6% of the land is affected by salinity. And saline at a concentration of 50 mol/L. It will reduce the yield of many rice varieties in half. Therefore. Efforts to improve the salt tolerance of rice. It can effectively increase the utilization rate of marginal saline alkali land. And increase crop yields. This is to ensure food security. Both increasing land output and reducing poverty are critical. If you can master this technology. Really meaningful. At this Moment. Not just Zhang Leo. Worldwide. All scientists working on sea rice research. They are all very concerned about Jiang Kui's breeding and emergence this time. Speak out on the internet. Qingdao Sea Rice Research and Development Center of Chinese Academy of Sciences. A special laboratory has been opened for this purpose. The first time I applied for a set of shots to the program team. Be ready to monitor the growth of rice seedlings 24 hours a day. A time. Hundreds of researchers under the leadership of Professor Chen, the father of sea rice. Ready. All eyes are locked on the green rice seedlings one after another. I really don't want to let go. Such a rare opportunity for experimental monitoring. At the same time, the other side. It only took half a day. Jiang Kui has completed the work of transplanting rice. Look around. In the green paddy field. Under the breeze. Chapter 236. Create an irrigation tool. The original Kangmenka. After several months of accumulation. Farmyard manure in the camp. The number is considerable though. But to deal with these acres of land. Still a little stretched. But at the moment. Hand. There is no better alternative to chemical fertilizers. You can only add more grass ash to make do with it. As for other means of human intervention in growth. Not yet mature. Such as higher quality compound fertilizer and neutral fertilizer. We can only make a decision after conditions permit. Soon. Busy days. To this day. With the successful transplanting of salt tolerant rice. Crops in the field. Finally taking shape. At a glance. Layers of primitive agricultural mixed fields very open. It is like a terraced field in a painting. Beautiful. It has already become a beautiful landscape in the camp. Stand on the high platform of the camp. Looking at the fruits of labor in front of you. This moment. Jiang Kui's heart. Full of sense of achievement. Whenever fantasizing about the near future. Great harvest scene. He couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. Landed to the present. From the initial lack of food to having 10,000 acres of fertile land. From an inconspicuous vegetable yard, it can develop all the way to today. This is something no one expected. If you don't see it with your own eyes, it's really hard to believe. In a state of defenseless survival, Jiang Kui not only survived. And live better and better, have a solid house. With the capital to survive. It has established a sustainable development of the original farmland. Go on like this. Not to mention the challenge for 365 days. Even living on the island for decades is not a problem. Immediately after have farmland. Next thing to consider, it's the irrigation system. In the irrigation system of primitive agriculture. The water wheel is undoubtedly the most convenient and efficient existence. The water wheel is an original irrigation tool unique to China. At the same time. It is also the working people of ancient China. A running machine developed by making full use of hydraulic power. This complex moving machine. It is the first driving force for human beings to use water. Invented. Wooden machinery for production operations. Water wheels can be divided into two categories according to their functions. Water turbines and water lifters. Turbine. It is the rotating water that pushes the bladed roulette. The roulette wheel then drives other tools to rotate to do work. Commonly used in grinding mills. Such water wheels, the diameter is generally small. And compared to it. Water lifter. It is to use running water to push the roulette wheel with the water cylinder around it to rotate. The water tank brings the water to a certain height and pours the water into the sink. The water then flows down the sink to where it is needed. The diameter of this water wheel. It's quite big. Mostly used to irrigate farmland. According to the literature. The water wheel appeared around the Eastern Han Dynasty. Then Emperor Ling at the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty. Ordered Bilan to build a turnover car. There are basic devices such as axle groove plates is an important part of China's farming culture. The complex mechanical principle in the water wheel profoundly reflects the creativity of the Chinese nation. Water wheel for irrigation. Also known as the sky car. Kangming car. The car is about 10 meters high. By a length of about 5 meters. Axles with a diameter of 0.5 meters. Supports 24 wooden spokes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237. The cow has been approved. What the hell? Is this a Ferris wheel? No, this is a perpetual motion machine. This is nanny. What did Master KUI do? Looks like a wheel. Isn't it some kind of black technology? Dynamo. Invincible Hot Wheels. In the live room opinions vary. Various barrages there are endless. Many people are arguing against the huge woo in front of them. At a glance. The skeleton of the entire spoke. A hub shaped like a wheel. Diameter about 15 meters or so. Only long and not short. Between the two spokes there are keels connected. Interval. About a meter or so. At the same time. Inside the spokes also fitted with 3 huge wooden gears. The gears are the running buckets, the only power machine that keeps the river flowing into the aqueduct. The construction is not complicated. Just simple straight cycloidal gears. Log a shaft. Wooden dowels for fans. Hug each other. Well organized. Uncompromisingly clamped together. It is definitely the core component inside the spokes. Pull one hair and move the whole body. At the same time. It also played a linking role. Keel and bucket. Whether the buckets and aqueducts work together without error. It's all about those gears. 850. Immediately after the spokes and keel are installed, Jiang Kui will also create a rectangular bucket. In advance. Use the simplest straight tenon. Connected under the keel. As such. When a stream of water falls from a height. It will flow through the keel for the first time. Pre-stored in the bucket. When the water is full. The water wheel will use the motion inertia of the water potential for the first time. Fill the buckets one by one with river water. Step up. On top. The bucket will automatically tilt. Pour water into the aqueduct. And along the aqueduct. A steady stream flows into farmland and campman-made lakes that need to be irrigated. So repeatedly. To achieve perpetual motion. As long as the river keeps flowing. The water wheel won't stop running. By the time. Just fix the water wheel under the flow of water and in turn at the entrance of the farmland. Place corresponding pools and sluice gates. Time saving and labor saving. Mechanized automatic irrigation can be realized soon. Water buckets and aqueducts also finally installed. Subsequently, Jiang Kui never stops doing it. Immediately push up the spokes. Along the forest path. Take it to the pond. Shelved under the pond dam. After according to the size of the water wheel, Jiang Kui is on both sides of the dam again. 2 pits were dug. 3 sturdy logs were found at random. Take 2 first. Insert into the pit. Secure with sealant. Act as a pillar. Chapter 238. This game, Lord KUI, can be understood. Looking for Hayfree. Finished speaking. A crowd of crooked nuts in the live broadcast room. Suddenly realized. Turn out to be. This device looks like a wheel. It turned out to be an ancient irrigation tool. Heard the original explanation. Combined with what you have seen with your own eyes. Soon. These unknown foreigners. That's it. The subtlety. They are all in the live broadcast room. Launch a pop-up. So this is my god. My god. Chinese people are too smart, right? They invented such ingenious production tools thousands of years ago. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I really couldn't believe it. It was incredible. My brother is about to start automated agricultural production. Looking and going, it is still the most interesting live broadcast of China's little brother. No way. The performance of other players is really bad. The water wheel kept turning. Crackling sound. Filled the entire live room. Between the spokes. The greater the force of the water on the keel is, the more energy you get. Turns naturally faster. Cooperate with the upstream adjustable weir. Not only can the multi-dimensional free irrigation be perfectly realized. At the same time. During the irrigation period. It can also greatly guarantee the water output. Easy to grow seedlings. Greatly improved production efficiency. Immediately after, Jiang Kui took some more logs. Use a frame saw to deconstruct the pillars 2 by 2 as a group. By the pool. 4 main sluice gates were built to control the water flow. Then find the plank again. Plane to fit the gate to the main body. Switches are controlled with rope and wooden pulleys. When irrigation is required. Just open the gate. The water will flow down the culvert. Into farmland. When not needed. Just close the gate. By the time. The water flow will automatically redirect. Run into the lake. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Very ingenious. Soon. The gate is built. Jiang Kui pulled the rope. Open the floodgates. Just tested it. Unsurprisingly. It's really convenient. With this facility. Not only does it greatly save labor costs, in the future, there is no need to worry too much about the issue of farmland irrigation. As long as the river keeps flowing. The water wheel will not stop running for a day. 666. Kui understands this game. Invincible. Perpetual motion machine is done. Earth all hardcore player. Cow approved. In a blink of an eye. Speechless for a few days. Another month and a half passed. During this period, Jiang Kui went to the fields as usual every day. Observe the growth of crops. The rest of the time. The post-disaster reconstruction of the camp is underway. After some effort. Inside the camp. The ruins after the typhoon. Finally refurbished. Everything is thriving again. Seedlings in the field. It is also growing in an orderly manner. Salt-tolerant rice in paddy fields. Compared to before. Grows a lot again. Guess it won't be long. Should be able to turn green tillering. But after more than a month. I've been worried about fertilizers. It's also getting trickier. Became a little trouble. At the moment. The crops are still in the early stages of growth. Chapter 239. Thank you for the new props sent by the program team. Inca 1532. Plop. 99 falling into the water. Jiang Kui is a tough guy. Run far away. A time. Water splashed around. It looks like a white practice. Cross the blue curtain. Under the interpretation of the ultra blue lens. Very beautiful. It is pleasing to the eye. Every frame. It can be called a flawless HD wallpaper. I'm going. It's so beautiful. Thank you for the 238th wallpaper. Provided by Lord Kui. Material party welfare. Obviously it's a bounty. Speaking of which, what is Master Kui going to do? Do not know. At this time. Because the sun hasn't fully risen. Yet. In water cold to the bone. A wisp of chill. From the root of the spine straight to the sky. Crazy. If it is not for having the constant temperature 850. Bloodline. The body temperature is not affected by the environment. To change. Even wearing a professional wetsuit. 80% will not be able to stand it. Soon. Swim in the water for a while. At this time. The depth of the dive. But 10 meters. But around the continental shelf. You can already see all kinds of rare marine plants and common fish. Shrimp and shellfish. Everywhere you look. All came into view. The most common are algae. Green algae. Red algae. Brown algae. Everything is there. Also. Huge mangroves. And seaweed. Also everywhere. Float back and forth in the water on your side. It feels wonderful. Soon. Swim forward for a while. Jiang Kui unloaded his rucksack. Find a place to stay. Knife up and down. Cut a lot of seaweed. Fresh seaweed is a great plant-based fertilizer. Mix a certain proportion of sea mud. It can basically meet the daily needs of farmland. As for better quality animal fertilizers, after all, large-scale fishing is not realistic. There is also no corresponding processing line in the camp. To maintain fat efficiency. It really takes a lot of effort. Don't think about it for now. If necessary. No matter how you think about it, it's totally possible. Soon. After some effort, Jiang Kui cut the seaweed. Tie them together with fine twine. In turn into the rucksack. It's almost there. Turn around and go back. But right now. In the afterglow. A sudden flash of golden light. It caught his attention instantly. See. He hurriedly stopped what he was doing. Look around. Next second. Another golden light. Suddenly. At this time, Jiang Kui noticed. The light source is under a stone covered with seaweed less than 10 meters away from him. See. He watched silently for a while. Feel weird. Seeing no movement. When even cautiously swam towards the light source. Now. Above the sea. The sun has fully risen. The sun shines down. Chapter 240. I'm sour, brothers. Around the island trench. Think here. Jiang Kui frowned. Look at the gold coin in your hand. I have many thoughts. Whether it's the ruby pendant found before. Or these Inca gold coins hidden deep under the sea. Signs here. It seems to be a sign of something in the dark. Could it be the rumored Inca city of gold? Is there really another source? If you find these clues, not out of nowhere. That real Inca treasure. Isn't it in the vast ocean? Even if not. There must also be some unknown connection. there. Otherwise point all this in front of you. Point how to explain. This scene in front of me. Point it made Jiang Kui think of the sentence he read in Mr. Who's book when he was in school. Point history is a girl who follows everything. Point anyone can dress up. Point except for the witnesses. So many truths that seem to be within reach. Point there are often many unknown variables and predictable. It went wild for a while. Point pull back your thoughts to find out. Jiang Kui put down the gold coin decisively. Point decided to go along the continental shallows under the sea. Point swim to the 19th depths of the ocean. Want to see if I can find more valuable leads. At the same time, China's studio, an unexpected discovery in the depths of the ocean. Point not only did the audience in the live broadcast room scream incredible. Point it aroused the curiosity of the 4 experts. Look at the freeze frame on the big screen. Point Zhaoping was shocked. Point the first one said, this seems to be the legendary Inca gold coin. Inca gold coins, woodgrass. True or false? Mr. Zhao, don't lie to me, because I don't read much. What the hell? Visually, there is high energy ahead. Could it be that Lord Kui discovered the legendary Inca treasure? I'm going. Cow batch is big, good guy, epic. Next second. Point hear what Zhaoping said. Point the host, Lin Zhao, glanced at the teleprompter in front of him. Point ask now. Professor Zhao, what do you mean? Now. Point Zhaoping fell into contemplation. Point there was a look of disbelief on his face. Point it seemed like he had found something amazing. Point after a while. Point then he continued, I don't know if everyone has noticed the year marked on the gold coin. Talking room. Point the director immediately enlarged the picture of the gold coins on the screen. Well, it's 1532. Professor Zhao, is there anything special about this year? Lin Zhao asked. Point Zhaoping nodded. Point go on. For the mighty Inca Empire, 1532 was definitely a year worth remembering. This year, Atahualpa, the last lord of the Inca Empire, ascended the throne as he wished when the Spanish army, led by the Spanish colonizer, Francisco Pizarro, reached the Andes. He had just defeated his brother Vasco in a bitter civil war. That year was 1532 AD 99. These Inca gold coins are most likely minted by Atahualpa after he ascended the throne, but unfortunately chapter 241, accidental discovery, golden saber. Directly in front of the line of sight. Point it's a weird jumble of rocks. Point surrounding. Point floating dense and messy seaweed. Point soon. Point swim closer. Jiang Kui adjusted his posture immediately. Point squint. Point scrape off the floating seaweed with your hands. Look inward. Point next second. Point a huge rusted anchor came into view. An iron chain was tied to the anchor directly to the depths of the trench. Point but point because the light is too dim. Point can't see why. Point at a glance. Point there is no end in sight. Point see. Jiang Kui sank to the bottom. Point reach out and grab the chain with both hands. So much strength. Point shake twice. Call a time. Point the seabed is dusty. Point make a mess. Point under the chain. Point it seems to be tied to something. Point there must be something strange about it. Point thinking. Jiang Kui said nothing. Point immediately drop the chain. Point a tough guy. Point along the crevice of the trench. Point like a loach. Point swim in. Point it's dark inside. Point only with the help of a few rays of sunlight pouring down from the sea. Point only barely able to see the situation around. Point the oceanic side slope of the entire trench is a direct continuation of the lithosphere of the oceanic basin. Point the crustal structure is also normal oceanic crust. Point the surface is grey brown. Point as you dive deeper and deeper, axial crust begins to thicken. Point but still has the 3-layer structure of oceanic crust. Point the overall width is small. Point the 2 walls stand steeply. Point there is no accretionary complex in the trench. Point the surface is as smooth as a mirror, the reflection of the swaying sea water. Point very beautiful. Point a few rays of sunlight flickered in between. Point add a little more fantasy. Point let people linger soon. Point along the chain. Point all the way down. Point the space inside is getting wider and wider. Point that's it. Point swim forward for a while. Point only 3 minutes before and after Jiang Kui reached the bottom of the trench. Point at this time. Point look up again. Point natural cracks on the top of the head. Point it's turned into a day. Point only wisps of sparkling water could be seen. Point in swaying waves. Point next second. Point stand firm. Jiang Kui follows the chain. Point move your eyes. A hazy room. Point gaze across the flickering waters. He was soon at the end of the chain. Point found a giant thing that was silent in the dark. It was an ancient wreck in ruins due to long-term seawater erosion. The entire ship has long been unrecognizable. Only a few steel joists remained. Supported hard. The captain of the sinking ship was more than 10 feet tall. Depending on the specifications, it is either a large merchant ship or an ocean-going pirate ship. Or the medieval sea warships. But to this day. Who is the name of the sinking ship? Why is it silent here? Does it have anything to do with the legendary Inca mystery? Chapter 242. The Wealth Code of the Inca Empire. The Mysterious City of Gold. Captain Saber. Is a symbol of power. It is also the belongings of the leader. That alone. Enough to conclude. Pizarro must have been here before. And in front of this piece of Wang Yangtze. Most likely this is where he haunts last. Finally. Became his burial place. The savage sea raider, a lifetime obsessed with chasing Inca treasures. No fantasies all the time. Sitting on those countless treasures of gold and silver. Even if it kills you. Don't hesitate any more. Combine all the signs in front of you. If so. Not surprisingly. This sea. Definitely inextricably linked to the lost city of gold. Besides gold mines on the island. It also seems to play an important role in this story. Then. The gold that the Incas got out of thin air probably came from here, not the rumored Amazon rainforest. Then. Pizarro learned about it from some Inca nobles. Inca gold. In fact, it came from a primitive gold mine with huge reserves in the Amazon rainforest, in order to get huge fortune as soon as possible. In addition, the search for the Golden City has suffered successive setbacks. This makes Pizarro cranky. Then. He immediately aimed at the primitive jungle. By understanding. Pizarro learns that in the rainforest there is a fortress called Sacsayhuaman. The tunnel there is a paradise where the Incas obtain gold and silver treasures. They speculate that the huge amount of gold in the Inca is likely to be excavated here. To trace back to the source. They went to Sacsayhuaman again and again to search. The Sacsayhuaman fortress is built on a hillside. There are 3 walls made of boulders. Each wall is 18 meters high. The fort has a total of 21 forts and watchtowers. There is a solid boulder on a platform high on the mountainside. It was the throne where the Inca empires of all dynasties reviewed the Inca troops. There are also various buildings such as the Sun Temple, the royal baths, and the arena in the fortress. In the center of the fort stood a round tower-like building. The entire fortress is as complicated as labyrinth. The Spanish colonists have entered the fort numerous times, but still cannot find the authentic BJFH secret entrance. Later. These greedy predators, after finding nothing in the fortress of Sacsayhuaman, herded again. Lots of gold and treasures from the Inca Empire. Probably originated in the Andes Mountains inside a mysterious castle called Machu Picchu. And gold mines hidden in the deepest part of the castle. Then. They turned to Machu Picchu again. Haunts among the dense forests of the Andes Mountains. But after searching for a long time, no one has found the trace of the Machu Picchu mine. 1911. Jerome Bingham, a professor of Latin American history at Yale University in Eagle Source. Visit the Andes Mountains. Inadvertently. He is leaving Cusco. Between two craggy peaks 120 kilometers northwest. Found the ruins of that legendary Machu Picchu citadel. Jerome has repeatedly and meticulously surveyed Machu Picchu. He found that the ancient castle was dangerously located. Clouds linger all year round. Very hidden. There are roads inside the castle. Square. City gate. There are also palaces. Chapter 243. Superhuman lungs. Humanoid submarine. A rare biological miracle. At the wreck. Going around for a while. Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. Since there are no new discoveries. Plus the various organs of the body. The tolerance limit has also been reached. After turning around, Jiang Kui made a decisive U-turn. Leaving the riddled cabin. Swim out of the trench according to the original road. Then back to the sea again. With grass. Kui was underwater. How long did you stay? Dang it. Leo. Kui's breath holding time is too long. Good guy. This is a built-in oxygen tank, right? This F***CK is like a humanoid submarine. Incredible. I thought Lubu was invincible. Whose subordinate is this? Eagle Source audience. My god. How can this guy stay underwater for so long? Incredible. My god. Darngeing audience. Unbelievable. Did he treat himself like a fish? I never imagined that my little brother is so good at water. I feel like I'm watching a sci-fi movie. Collier's audience. Isn't he cheating? Yeah. Even a master diver can't LUO dive for such a long time. Right, I do not believe this moment point with the end of the exploration point. The audience in the live broadcast room point also pay attention point. Move to this detail of Jiang Kui holding his breath underwater for a long time. Well known point. Humans mainly breathe with the lungs. Because of the special physiological structure point, humans simply can't stay in the water for as long as fish. Previously point Alex Segura holds the Guinness World Records for the longest underwater breath hold time point. The record for underwater breath holding point, but only 24 minutes and 3 seconds. But even so point this record point no one has been able to break it yet. A normal person point let alone hold your breath for more than 20 minutes. 5 minutes is the limit point. If you stay that long 100% will be dead. That's why point when noticing this scene point many viewers are full of doubts about Jiang Kui's move, because from launching to now point this guy actually stayed underwater for 30 minutes, easily beats the world record set by Alex Segura at the beginning of this century. Just don't be too outrageous. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244. Guinness World Records Voice. The key to the Inca treasure. At the same time point the internet is also very lively point. Guinness World Records China headquarters, it is the first time to speak on its official account. Clearly states the relevant certification group will be organized immediately point. Standardize all aspects of this new world record. This is since the inception of Guinness World Records for the first time in an informal reporting situation point. Offsite certification of relevant world records. Before that point Guinness World Records certification system point application procedure for applicants. It has very strict requirements. Nothing like this has ever happened before. After all point this century record point it's so rare to see. The sun is raging point, the sea is blue point, unpredictable sea point, and ushered in its unique tropical scenery. 853. Floated aimlessly on the sea point, the skin that adheres to sea water under the hot sun point. Immediately there was a burning pain. Call. Take a break for a while. Jiang Kui finally caught his breath point. Didn't even think about it right now point. Immediately raise your arms. Quickly swam back to the beach point. Soon point back to shore. Jiang Kui randomly found a shade point. Drop the rucksack point. Take off your clothes. Sit down against a large rock point. While eating dry food point. While looking at the golden saber from hundreds of years ago point. Frowning point. Once again lost in thought point to this day point. Whether it's the ruby pendant found before point, still this saber, or a sunken ship at the bottom of the sea point. Signs here point. It seems to be foreshadowing point the island where he lived for a long time. And the rumored Inca treasure point. There are thousands of connections. Could it be that point this little known island, which doesn't even exist on the world map, may be the key to the Inca treasure? If so point not only will history be overturned, the Inca treasure that had been dormant for hundreds of years and fascinated by tens of thousands of treasure hunters, it is also very likely that the sun will reappear in the near future. But point think again. Jiang Kui's heart point for this inference point. Somewhat hesitant point on the island for several months point. Key areas of the island point. Basically he's been around point east, west, north, and south shores. It is also one that does not fall point, but no trace of the treasure was found at all point. From this point of view point current inference point is completely untenable point. But if so point the ultimate truth point, what is it? Bizarro in his twilight years, and why are you so interested in this inconspicuous island, even at the risk of dying point? Want to find out too. Also point this so-called Inca treasure point for him point. Why is it so attractive? What he coveted point? Really those gold jewelry? A time point question after question point keep popping up in my mind. Looking up at the blue sky. Jiang Kui thought about it for a long time point, still haven't gotten the hang of it. Even more do not understand point. Countless treasure hunters flock to it point. What is it for? Point for centuries. Chapter 245. Giant paintings on the wasteland. Mysterious Nazca lines. Thanks to the coming of the sun god, my empire can live forever. Following its guidance is where the gods are. The last eternal road. The son of God will walk with me, facing the vast azure in front of you point. The harsh Pacific sea breeze blows Jiang Kui recited in his heart over and over again. This ancient text on a ruby. But pondered for a long time. No valuable information can be seen from it. But is the only clue at the moment. In the dark, Jiang Kui always felt that these words were not simple. Must represent something. Perhaps are they not ancient inscriptions of sacrificial culture at all? But what is the key to unlocking the key? Think deeper. The last act of Pizarro's life. Maybe there is some inevitable causal relationship with it. If so. Mysterious Inca treasure. It is very likely that it will no longer be mysterious, but now the problem is just based on the clues in front of you. I couldn't find a breakthrough to solve this series of mysteries at all. 19. Think for a moment. My heart is still a mess without any choice. Jiang Kui let out a long breath. But this is the sudden slack. But he made an unexpected discovery. His brows furrowed immediately. His eyes were also sharpened for half a minute. Next second. He immediately gave his full attention. From unintelligible ancient texts transferred to those patterns engraved around the text. Seems to have found something amazing. Soon. After some careful observation, Jiang Kui found. These ancient patterns. It doesn't look like an ordinary metal pattern. But the legend. Mysterious Nazca lines. Nazca lines. It is the most mysterious place of Inca culture, also known as Nazca land paintings. According to legend, it is a huge ancient earth painting made by the ancient Nazca people. The paintings are mysterious and tortuous. Stretches for hundreds of kilometers. By various complex lines. Form one piece after another. Countless vivid patterns carved on the ground. These patterns are formed in complex arrangements including all kinds of strange geometric figures. Fish. Algae. Shark. Vultures. Spider flowers. And so on. There are many varieties. Dizzying. View from the sky. They are like crisscrossing airport runways exposed on the Nazca wastes of southern Peru in the western part of the South American weak. History of the existence of the Nazca lines. Even conservative estimates also 2000 years old. Who exactly created them? Created for what? No one has yet figured it out. As early as 100 years ago. Nazca lines. It was included in the Shida mystery. It deserves to be the oldest and most mysterious civilization pattern in the world today! 1939. Drive. Paul, a researcher of ancient culture in the Latin American week of Eagle Source, flew along the ancient water diversion system on the Nazca Plain. Bow down once in a while. There was a discovery that shocked the world. From now on. Mysterious Nazca lines completely into the public eye. Then. Dr. Paul's team. Painted in the Nazca Desert. It looks like a line like an airport runway. Deeply attracted. Chapter 246. Where does the sun fall? Departure. North Shore. About the specific purpose of the Nazca lines. The more accepted statement is the sign of the ancient Nazca people's distribution of water, and those patterns. It is the emblem of different families. It can also be understood as a totem. Through research. People found out. Underground covered in those patterns there are a large number of ancient canal ruins in desert areas with relatively poor water sources. The ancient Nazca people painted through these places. To divide water sources. Rainfall in the Nazca Plain. Pitiful. Rainfall throughout the year. Less than 50 millimeters. That's why. These deeply buried water sources have become very precious. In order to reasonably allocate these only sources of water. Finally. The Nazca people figured out a way. Based on the emblems of various tribes. Paint on the water source territory of the tribe. To express sovereignty. Such an inference. It seems very reasonable. It is also more recognized by the mainstream. But in fact. If only the water sources divided into territories just like that. A bit too far-fetched. These patterns have been discovered since 1926. Related academic circles for its use. It can be said that there are different opinions. However, the intention of these patterns is still a mystery. Alfred Kluber and Mejia XBY. The two who first noticed the patterns thought they were irrigation canals. Later XB considers these trails to be similar to the sacred paths of the Inca Empire. Those conical piles are the focus point called focus. That is, the aggregated intersection of these lines. It may also be a venue for ceremonial events. After that. The latest inferences about the Nazca lines. Until 1941. When Paul Cossack arrived to investigate the site. There is a new progress. Then. It happened to be the day of the summer solstice. He happened to observe the sun falling over the end of one of these red bars. This wonderful phenomenon point, he wrote it in his diary point and call it. This is the most incredible astronomical book in the world point. That's why point the Nazca lines are also considered ancient Nazca people point for the first exploration of astronomy. These are represented by lines and spirals drawn on the surface point. It is the movement of the planet. And those enamel graphics, it represents the constellation point. Then point the ancient Nazca people painted through these places learn to observe the sky point to deal with various problems encountered in production and life point. Certainly point, except for these theories there are many other sayings that are also very interesting point. In point the most famous and far-fetched is the explanation given by Eric von Daniken in his book Chariots of God. These are the entrance signs left for aliens to visit point. Another equally whimsical myth is in the past point people here leave such remnants in hot air balloons. This guess is based on these patterns can only be seen clearly in the air. Chapter 247. A shocking scene. The haunted island. Soon point speechless all the way point. After a long journey of less than half an hour a few months later, Jiang Kui came to the north shore again point. Standing under the majestic Wazi mountain, weathered the storm point. 5 green mountains still standing still point. Standing tall point, it reveals the solemn solemnity and the unknown mystery. Mountains everywhere point. The cliffs are steep point. Strange tree shed point. The ancient vines are entangled point. Like a gorgeous curtain point embraced the distant mountains and the near ridges, covered with a dazzling new green and rare original beauty. After arriving at the place, Jiang Kui picked an open area point. Camping place point. Picked up some branches and leaves. Simply build a simple triangular slope house neatly point. Used as a temporary camp point. Convenient to store supplies immediately after shelter built point. He was near the camp again point. Find an old tree, tie the sweaty horse point. Call Dabe to your side. I may be away for a few days. 9 stroking the white fur. Jiang Kui pointed to the foal that was grazing. These days, you have to stay here. 5 keep an eye on the camp's supplies and equipment. But remember, if you encounter an emergency, don't wait for me. Take it and leave immediately. Apostrophe done. Jiang Kui patted its head meaningfully point. Wear climbing shoes along the way. 857 checked some of the ropes around his waist point until it feels okay point. That's when I said goodbye to these 2 guys. Pack light point. He left the makeshift camp without looking back point. Take the first step to the depths of the mountain. Speaking of which, where is Master Kui going? Do not know, although I don't know what happened. I always think it's amazing. Dabe, why do I keep the house every time there is high energy ahead? Master Kui must be planning something big. Sit and wait for high energy. The main peak of Wazi mountain point just behind the original spring point. The visual altitude is more than a few hundred meters. It is the highest point of the island's topography point. Overall mountain point not too steep point. During this period, there were ravines. The rocks are varied point. The vegetation is dense point. It is a typical mountain tropical rainforest climate point. Go up on foot point shouldn't be a problem point, but no surprise point. It will definitely take some time point. Arrive before sunset point. Even if it's good point soon point. Along the ravines on either side of the ridge point. Walk all the way there point. It only took less than half an hour before and after. Jiang Kui came to the foot of the main peak point. Without further ado point, one head plunged into the vast mountain point. The vegetation coverage on the mountains is compared to the plains on the island point more than a star and a half higher. Look around point. Features of pristine montane rainforests. A bird's eye view point. Vegetation spreads over the ridges underfoot. Knee-high wormwood and shrubs point will be around point. It was shrouded like a huge airtight steamer. Breathless, and with the increase of altitude point the mountain road below point it's also getting rougher. Before and after it took nearly 3 hours. Jiang Kui was just before sunset point. Climbed to the top of the main peak. Cool. After reaching the top of the mountain, Jiang Kui wiped the sweat from his forehead point. Physically and mentally exhausted point. Sitting on a big rock point he was gasping for breath almost frantically point. Look around point. This is the highest point of the island point. Look up. Chapter 248. You can't brush during the day, and you can't escape the series at night. Is this a ghost island? Island in sight looming point. Sitting alone on the vast sea point. Clouds shrouded all around point. A haze full of unknown dreams and mysteries. At the beginning, Jiang Kui thought he was confused point, but so far he was sure point this is no illusion. Why is this so? Did something psychic happen? At the same time point in the live room point many viewers noticed this incredible scene. A time point the screen is covered by a dense barrage again. Woodgrass. What's the situation? I'm sure. Just not yet. Hey. What the hell? Can't brush during the day. Can't escape the series at night. The urge to urinate is getting stronger. With doubt. Jiang Kui narrowed his eyes and observed point the island doesn't seem to be that big point just a few thousand square feet. The island is full of sand and rocks vegetation is barely visible point only a little green point it looks like algae in the sea. Pay attention to this detail. Jiang Kui had an idea point I understood immediately point shouldn't this be a tidal island? Tidal island point as the name suggests point with the ebb and flow and there are temporary islands that disappear point for example point St Michael's Mount Cornwall, UK it's a temporary island point. When the tide goes out point some rocks and sand will be exposed point the mountain will be connected to the land point. And when the tide is high point the connecting belt will be covered with seawater makes Mount St Michael's become an island again point similar tide affected islands it is called tidal island point very mysterious point on the vast Pacific Ocean point there are many tidal islands like this one point among them. The most famous is a Little Rat Island, which is talked about by people. Little Rat is the most mysterious island in the world point located in the South Pacific. For hundreds of years point keep disappearing point reappeared point reason point no one knows yet point. Because it's too elusive point many people call it the Ghost Island. The specific location of Ghost Island is in the southwestern waters of the Pacific Ocean point. Although they are in the same sea area point, but it is 108,000 miles away from Jiang Kui point could it be that point the Ghost Island that disappeared back then point here again now to this. Jiang Kui is also not sure point, but there is no doubt about it point this little island point it must also be the same as the legendary Ghost Island point otherwise point how can all this be explained? Handed down point the shape of Little Rat is not static point at the end of the 20th century point many people have seen it in real form, but after a few years, when people go to find it again point it disappeared again point according to historical records point in 1890 point Little Rat is 49 meters above sea level point, but point nearly 100 years have passed point by 1898 point he was submerged to 7 meters underwater again. Chapter 249. Shock from the experts. Lord Kui is going to Ghost Island? At the same time, inside the China studio point through the feedback screen point several experts and Lin Zhao also saw all this. Totally surprised. The experts were also completely surprised point it turns out to be a mysterious ghost island that can be encountered by chance but cannot be found deliberately. See this scenario point the program team even got in touch with geologists who are engaged in related research in this area at the first time. The screen of the live broadcast room was almost completely swiped by the crazy barrage. Wow. As expected of Lord Kui. Can you still find this kind of island? 33G feel a bit rude. Brother Kui doesn't plan to go there, right? Hey, maybe you can find something new. Will there be an underwater kingdom? Atlantis? No way. It doesn't really exist, does it? Where in the world does this kind of existence come from? Ignorance. Do you dare to assume that 857 does not exist? What's the matter with Ghost Island? Do you understand the popular science? Also at this time point Zhu Ji, a geological expert from China Academy of Scientists it has also appeared on the big screen in the live room. Watch the live screen point Shen Sheng explained. There is no doubt about the mystery of the Ghost Island. It will appear at any time, and it will disappear quietly, and the location and appearance of it will be different each time. Its birth is related to submarine volcanoes. A large amount of lava accumulates, and it absorbs the magazines on the seabed, producing new substances and forms, and thus the island is formed. 35 Many adventurers and scholars pursued the Ghost Island, and even established a base on the Ghost Island, but the people and the base disappeared mysteriously together with the island. Whether it's a warship or a reconnaissance plane, there's no way to find the original marked location. After a general science by experts point a time point the audience in the live room was even more excited. Emotions are quite high. So scary? A little scary. Indescribable. How is this the same as the Bermuda Triangle? too weird. It's too evil. Nature is beyond human imagination. I have never seen this thing before. If Master KUI really dares to go, I will call Master KUI Yites. It is estimated that I can't go. It's scary to look at. You can always trust your Lord KUI. You happy? I just want to watch Lord KUI hunt and eat. To be reasonable, I think going there, with the psychological resistance of ordinary people, I can't stand it. I'm afraid I'll be scared crazy. At the same time, inside the global studio, the geology professor from Columbia University, James, was also shown on the screen of the live room. The Ghost Island is not formed by silt, submarine volcanoes and lava, but is based on granite. It is built on an area where earthquakes and tsunamis often occur. The mysterious disappearance is also due to another earthquake and tsunami, and the island was crushed and sank. An Ghost Island doesn't mean a certain island. Good guy. This is too scientific. This thing is shot for approaching science. At least 10 episodes start. When it comes to you, this is it. No. Is there really someone trying to explain the mystery of nature with scientific explanations? Are you two debating here? The next moment. Chapter 250. Make an ocean-going raft. Go to Ghost Island. Soon. All the way back to camp. Jiang Kui sat by the lead fire and ate something casually. Reflecting fire. A ruby pendant with a beast tooth chain in hand. He was lost in thought again. Thanks to the coming of the sun god, my empire can live forever. Not surprisingly. That haunted island. It must have something to do with the Inca treasure. And unlock the key to it all. Now. In your own hands. This ruby is not vulgar. Those 3 Inca texts are by no means groundless. Think here. Everything is becoming clearer. Just find that little island. I'm sure you can find something. Think for a moment. Jiang Kui moved immediately. Gathered some wood and rattan bark. Chopping some more bamboo with a Viking battle axe. At the same time. In the global live room. All the audience are boiling with Jiang Kui's actions. Eagle source audience. Isn't this guy really going to explore? The adventurous spirit of this Chinese man is amazing. Can he really succeed? 19 Dangying audience. Also from Asia. Why is this little brother so powerful? I admire him so much. If it was me, I would have exhausted all my luck in surviving. He relies on strength. It's not luck. Viewers of live broadcast rooms in other countries, it's almost the same performance. The reason is that witness the adventurous spirit of Jiang Kui. Foreigners are quite confident when it comes to taking risks. Otherwise, how can you say that there are few foreigners? Then impressed by Jiang Kui and Dangying people. Again, it will only surrender to the strong. The better for it. The more kind. It doesn't look good, but once shown strong posture. Dangying will be weak at this time. What Jiang Kui possesses is undoubtedly the overwhelming power that makes them admire. Materials are collected. In order to meet the materials required for the voyage, Jiang Kui looked at the hunting trap again. For the first time ever, a deer was discovered. Now. Has lost the ability to move. Feet trapped in this trap. See. Jiang Kui raised his knife and dropped it. A knife pierced through the heart. Carry it back to camp. Start processing. Now. Viewers who saw through the feedback screen. The barrage is flying. China Channel Studio. My darling. Why does this look like protecting animals? Master KUI, you are too punished. These days are getting more and more punishable. Good guy. I'll call it a good guy. While making food and building a raft, both are correct. Who else? Just ask me who else is there besides me, Lord KUI. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.